Hello and welcome, Pokemon fans. There are those who call me Bardbreaker, and today we're back for another Sunday Pokemon Challenge run. Last week we were able to beat Fire Red with just a little Jigglypuff, and that went surprisingly well up until the very end when we got bogged down hard at Bruno, surprisingly, and the champion. Actually, the last couple of runs have gotten really brutal with our champion in the endgame, so let's take a bit of a chill and do something I think will be pretty easy, but also something I think might be kind of interesting in concept, because you've probably never thought about it before. Today we're going to ask and answer the question, can I beat Pokemon Blue by only inflicting critical hits? Now that may confuse some of you, so let's dive right into the rules and start explaining some stuff. Aside from the normal rule of no items in battle, let's focus on the main rule of this run. In order to inflict damage, I can only do so through a critical hit. Therefore, if I cause any damage by a move that was not a critical hit, I have to reset the battle and try again. There will be no saving between Pokemon and no saving between attacks. The entire battle must be critical hits. Also, it should go without saying, but just the same, this obviously means I can't use any stat or status moves like Double Team or Sleep Powder. Ironically, this also means I cannot use Focus Energy, as it does not in and of itself cause critical hits. Though it should be noted that in Generation 1, due to a bug, it actually lowers your crit chance instead of raising it like it should, so it would be pointless to try and use it anyway. But wait, hold on, back the Moo Moo Milk Truck up here, you're no doubt shouting from the back of the room. How could you possibly do this run? Crits are a random chance. They only have a 1 in 16 or 6.25% chance under normal conditions. The odds that you'd need to get enough consecutive critical hits is otherworldly low. Just the champion alone would require 6 consecutive crits, assuming you were a high enough level to one-shot his team, and that's not even a given. The odds of that are so low that the actual percentage chance of 6 consecutive 1 in 16 events occurring is a 0.00006% chance. To put that into perspective, using the most likely to happen metric I could find, according to National Geographic, the average person has about a 1 in 3,000 chance of being struck by lightning in their lifetime. That's about a 0.03% chance. That means you're statistically more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to get 6 consecutive critical hits in Pokemon under normal conditions. But what if I told you there is a way I can guarantee a run of nothing but critical hits without using any cheats, glitches, exploits, or hacks, aside from just replacing one starter Pokemon with one of our choosing. And the only reason we're replacing the starter is so that we can guarantee a run entirely with crits. Well, for that we need 2 things. We need to be in Generation 1, where critical hits are calculated differently than the rest of Pokemon games, and we need 4 specific attacks. Specifically, we need Slash, Karate Chop, Razor Leaf, and Crab Hammer. See, unlike in every game that came after them, in Generation 1 Pokemon games, critical hits are actually determined off your base speed, rather than using a static 6.25% chance for all. Karate Chop, Slash, Razor Leaf, and Crab Hammer all have an enhanced chance to land a critical hit. And I'll save you the math, but it means that using one of those attacks, combined with the fast enough Pokemon, in fact anything with a base speed of 65 or higher will work, will result in an over 100% chance at a crit. This means that a fast Pokemon plus one of those 4 attacks are guaranteed critical hits, assuming they hit. Accuracy and evasion can still play a part. And that, my friends, is how we will be able to do this entire run with only critical hits. Whether that combination is how the developers intended those moves to work or not can be debated, but that's exactly how the game works. But enough stalling for time. I can't monetize these yet, so I'm not even stalling for ad breaks. Let's dive into the run and explain the rest as we go. So I use the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Squirtle with Primeape. This accomplishes 2 things. Replacing Squirtle assures our rival of having Venusaur in the endgame, which will know Razor Leaf. Venusaur won't be weak to any of our attacks, and since it's fast enough, it will be guaranteed to crit with Razor Leaf should it use it. Now, I can't force the AI to attack me with it, but it gives him that option. And since several of our planned team will be weak to grass, that could pose significant challenges if the AI is smart. Now, choosing Primeape may seem like an odd choice, but it's actually necessary to ensure this run from start to finish is completely crits, and only 2 Pokemon can do that. Victreebel and Primeape. It's also worth noting that in Gen 1, Karate Chop is a normal type attack, for some reason, so it will be not very effective against Rock instead of super effective, and that's a big difference in damage output, even on a critical hit scale. No surprises here, we get past the rival in 3 critical hit Karate Chops, and we play Package Delivery Simulator again, and we're ready to head towards Brock. We do our usual catching a Pidgey to nickname it Flapsity the 10th, long may he fly, and we grind to level 10 to challenge our rival 1A west of Viridian City. There isn't really much to recount here. We take down the Pidgey in 2 crits as it hits Sand Attack, and the Bulbasaur does get off a Leech Seed before we take it down in a couple of crits as well. I'm probably not going to recount the battles blow for blow, just because we probably won't have a lot to take down on paper here. We will hit some walls though, hence why we started with the Primeape and not the Victreebel, and we're going to hit some walls based off what we're catching later. I do a bit of grinding in Viridian Forest and catch our Pikachu for Flash, nicknaming it Flashelius the 10th. Long may he flash, and we try Brock at level 14. Despite the guaranteed crits, this is not an easy fight. Rock resists our normal Gen 1 Karate Chop, though we do get mostly lucky with Geodude as it keeps spamming Defense Curl, which our critical hits bypass. Onix is a bit tricky though. It knows Bide, and since we normally would just avoid that with something like Growl, but we can't do it this run, so we just have to hope we can beat it down before it hits us back hard. We end up defeating Brock, but only just barely as we were about 12 health. This was closer than I bet you probably thought it would be. Now it's on to Cerulean. Mount Moon was uneventful, and just like you'd expect, we get to Misty and she's actually pretty easy. Staryu goes down in one hit, and her Starmie comes out next. Starmie's actually pretty fast, and it actually lands a crit Bubble Beam to cause a bit of trouble, but we take it out without fainting, and we're on to Rival number 2 in Nugget Bridge. Rival 2 goes down, but not before landing a crit of his own off Pidgeotto. Otherwise, it's not very eventful. This run's either going to be super long battles and we easily sweep, or pretty long battles that we get stuck in. We make it into Vermilion City, and I decide to go into Diglett Cave to catch a Dugtrio. They only spawn at 5%, but they learn Slash at level 35 and are fast enough to guarantee a crit. As luck would have it, we actually find one on our very first encounter in the cave. Now we need to level it up by switch training until it reaches level 35. Yes, I'm going to switch train stuff until they're high enough level. I'm not going to train without crits. This is a crit-only run, people. Our Rival 3 battle on the St. Anne is another one-shot sweep with Karate Chop as we expected, but I promise you we're not going to have one-shot luck forever. After dealing with the SS Anne events, we take on Lieutenant Surge. His damn trash can puzzle actually takes me 6 attempts to find the second lock, but once we do, it's on to Lieutenant Surge himself. We're actually still switch training our Dugtrio as it can't use Slash yet, so we take a bit of damage each time we swap Primeape in, but all is going well until we get to Raichu. We land a crit Karate Chop, but we don't one-shot it, and it lands a crit Thunderbolt of its own in exchange, and we get paralyzed. Fortunately, we survive and break through with another Karate Chop to end the fight, but that was actually pretty close. You see, I told you this isn't going to just be a walk in the park the entire way to the Elite Four. Switch training is going to be annoying, but necessary until we can use Dugtrio outright for Slash. We're going to need to switch train our next 2 Pokemon that we get too, so this is going to be grinding galore even in the gyms. While making our way through Rock Tunnel, Dugtrio finally levels up to 35 and can learn Slash. Now no more switch training. Now it can fight on its own. Now that that's over, we actually have another Pokemon to catch and switch train. See, when one door closes, another window opens. The big problem that we have, and some of you may have thought about this by now, is that we only have Slash and Karate Chop. Both are normal moves and they cannot hit ghosts. Even if this was in Gen 2, Karate Chop is a fighting type, it still wouldn't hit ghosts, so let's go catch our next cast member. Outside of the underground tunnel on Route 7, we catch a level 22 Bellsprout. And yes, I have been using one for cut this whole time, but this one is 7 levels higher and will save us so much grinding time. I nickname it Snipticus X, long may he cut, and it's time to grind. Bellsprout learns Razor Leaf at level 33, and at that point it will evolve into Weeping Bell, and a Leaf Stone will then make it into a Victory Bell. And once we have a Victory Bell, it will be fast enough to guarantee a crit with Razor Leaf. That's our objective, so let's do it. So we get to Celadon City and we take on Erica's Grass Gym, and it's actually not too bad. Most of her stuff takes 2 hits, and while we're being slowed down a bit by the switch training, it's manageable. We end up getting poisoned on Primeape, and Dugtrio is of course weak to grass, so this really isn't an ideal environment to try and get my little Bellsprout to grow, but we managed to get past the gym and now it's time for the Rockets Game Corner. While we're here, we clear everything out, and we find that Giovanni isn't actually a pushover. It actually takes 4 Karate Chops to knock out Onix, and 3 to knock out Rhyhorn, and then 2 Slashes to knock out Kangaskhan. Fortunately, the AI is a joke at times, and it actually doesn't attack most of the battle. Still, it's not as though we're one-shotting our way through, and until we can get Victory Bell and its Razor Leaf, we're quite literally not going to progress past Lavender Town, so it's back to the grind. Okay, future me note, yes I know about the Pokédoll glitch, but we still need something to deal with Agatha later, so either way we're going to need to grind, and it might as well be now. Probably the hardest part of our Tower Tim fight is that Gyarados doesn't go down in one shot and it nearly faints Primeape. If it had landed its Hydro Pump, we would have fainted absolutely for sure. We're almost high enough to know Razor Leaf though. It isn't going to be very effective on the Poison Ghosts of Gen 1, but it's all we've got to work with at the moment. Rescuing Mr. Fuji actually took a couple of attempts. Razor Leaf is doing more damage against the ghosts than I thought it would, but we're also being confused and paralyzed from the Ghastlies. Once we rescue him though, it's time to get the Silph Scope and our next member of the team. We acquire the Super Rod south of Lavender Town and take some time to fish up a Krabby. It learns Crab Hammer at level 35, so we'll have to switch train it until then, but once it evolves into Kingler, it will be fast enough to guarantee a crit with the Crab Hammer, and it gives us some much needed water coverage. Kingler can also learn Surf, so we nickname it Aquades X, long may he swim, and we continue on to Fuchsia City. We make it into Fuchsia and fight through Koga's gym, still switch training our Krabby. Koga isn't too much of an issue, even a not very effective Razor Leaf is still a 3-shot on his poison Pokemon. But that just shows how much we need to level, as the Elite Four isn't going to be so forgiving. Koga's gym is actually kind of a challenge at times due to all the psychic Pokemon his trainers have in his gym. It was interesting when we got to his Weezing because as I swapped in Dugtrio, he used Self-Destruct. which knocked out Dugtrio and gave us the win, but because Krabby had technically started the fight, he actually got a good dose of experience there. After getting the HMs for Strength and Surf, I go back and get the Bicycle and the HM for Fly. I'm surprised I actually didn't do these earlier. With these, I can go to the entrance of Rock Tunnel again and hunt for a Sandshrew. It learns Slash at level 17, and once it evolves to Sandslash, it's fast enough to guarantee a crit. I never said we'd only use one Pokemon for each attack. I want as many power points for the Elite Four later that I can muster. We go back to Saffron City and it's time for Silphco, and we clear every trainer out in the place so that we can get Kingler leveled up. Yes, Kingler. I accidentally evolved it on Cycling Road, and I couldn't remember when I had last saved, meaning that instead of learning Crabhammer at level 35 and being able to fight for himself, I have to wait until we reach level 42. It's tedious, but not hard. Time for Rival Fivel, as J-Rose11 would say, and honestly, yeah, the difficulty really ramps up here. We even eventually lose our Primeape to the Venusaur, but it's not overly difficult with nothing but crits. We're not one-shotting through though, so it's important to realize that we aren't just able to mash A and cruise through the fights. We're also switch training the Sandshrew we caught, so once we evolve it to Sandslash, we'll have another guaranteed crit lander on the team. Rival Fivel difficulty went up, but Giovanni was actually easier than normal. He actually spent pretty much all of his turns using guard specs or other bad moves like Tail Whip, meaning we're pretty much able to sweep through his team even easier than you might have expected. Sabrina's next, and it's pretty quick to mow down her Pokemon. Her Pokemon are weak physically, and we're able to mow them down pretty easily with our physical attacks like Karate Chop and Slash. We do lose Kingler in the process, but Sandslash puts in some work and is slowly catching up in levels to the rest of the group. Now that we've cleared out Sabrina, it's time to go to Cinnabar Island, and we surf there from Pallet Town and finish all the trainers in Blaine's gym, and it's time for a one-shot sweep with Crabhammer. We do miss a few times, and Blaine uses a potion on a fully healed Arcanine, but we get through the fight despite taking a fair bit of damage. Giovanni again, and even though we just fought him, he's still just as easy as Blaine. Victreebel sweeps through the entire team with Razor Leaf. It's almost kind of refreshing to just essentially be like, oh, and the last gym was a thing, and that's it in one of these runs. Our rival Tim west of Viridian nearly went south as we lost Victreebel early against his Pidgeot, and Venusaur at the end caused some major problems. Critical hits essentially double your level for damage calc, but we're still in danger of being swept by the Venusaur, and it's only going to get stronger the next time we face it. The only reason we didn't lose here was because it used Poison Powder instead of Razor Leaf at the end, which would have guaranteed a crit for it and ended the fight. After going through Victory Road, it's time for the Elite Four. I spent some time getting everyone's levels here up to level 50 except for Sandslash at level 40. I think we might be okay since again crits essentially double your level for damage calculation, meaning we should be hitting with damage of around a level 100 Pokemon for most of our team. Let's give this a try. Famous last words though. Make your guesses if we got it at this level. Ice Trainer Lorelei time, and her Dugong survives on a sliver as Lorelei heals it with a potion. We land another Razor Leaf and end it. Next out is Cloyster, and we have ungodly bad luck as this goes south. We miss our first Razor Leaf, which would have certainly been a critical one-shot, and it actually crits us with an Aurora Beam. We survive only to miss another Razor Leaf and go down to a second Aurora Beam. Razor Leaf is a 95% accurate move, and the odds of missing two 95% accurate moves in a row is 0.25%. That's insanely low. One of those two misses had to be the 1 in 256 glitch. I just refuse to accept that we legitimately missed twice in a row with a 95% accurate move. I'm totally blaming that loss on this crappy Gen 1 coding that gives us the 1 in 256 glitch, which if you're unfamiliar with it, it's a glitch where any move, even a 100% accurate move, can miss 1 in 256 times due to the RNG the game uses to determine if a move hits. On our next attempt, we certainly do better because we actually hit everything. We swapped off to Dugtrio for Jinx, but I actually forgot a new Ice Punch and it one-shots us. Primeape comes back and finishes the job, and it's on to Victreebel for Lapras. Lapras survives our Razor Leaf and lands a Blizzard, which we somehow survived. Fortunately though, she didn't heal and we take it out with another Razor Leaf to seal the deal for us. It's time for Bruno. And after losing to him over and over again with our Jigglypuff run last week, this time Bruno is back to being refreshingly easy. His first Onix goes down to a Razor Leaf. Next out is Hitmonchan, so I swapped to Dugtrio for some Brute Force. Just like the Jinx though, it knows Ice Punch, but miraculously doesn't knock us out though, and we take it down with a couple slashes. His Hitmonlee is next, and we swap back to Primeape for a couple of Karate Chops to end it. Onix is out, and we swap back to Victreebel for an easy one-shot with Razor Leaf. Machamp is last, and we swap back to Primeape just to Karate Chop it to death. I don't even know how much damage Machamp could have done to us, it never attacked. He just kept using Focus Energy and X-Defense. Oh well, I'll take it. Agatha is a quick one. I swapped to Kingler for the start of the fight so that I can just use Crabhammer. Razor Leaf isn't going to be as effective here since all of her Pokemon are either part or full poison type. Her Golbat's actually going to double resist it. There's really not a lot to tell here. Agatha has bad AI in Gen 1 and just likes to swap her Pokemon out and use moves like Dream Eater on Pokemon that are awake. We actually nearly swept her with Kingler, but we missed our final Crabhammer and we succumbed to our poison. We bring Victreebel out and finish the job though. We revive our Kingler and head on to Lance. Gyarados is first, so we go to Victreebel for the best type move possible here. Gyarados' flying portion counters the weakness to water, but it's our best bet. We take it out without much trouble, and out next is Dragonair. I swap to Dugtrio for Slash and do respectable damage, though Lance heals with a Hyper Potion. He hits hard with Hyper Beam and Slam, and eventually we go down. I bring out Sandslash as a cleanup crew, and we get the knockout. We nearly take down his next Dragonair in the same fashion, but ultimately go down to a Slam. We bring out Primeape, and it finishes it off with a Karate Chop. Aerodactyl is next, so we swap to Kingler for the type advantage, though it's nearly a disaster as we missed our first two, which let it get off a Hyper Beam for big damage. We land our third, though, for a one-shot. His legendary, not legendary Dragonite is last, and we swap to Primeape and get some great Gen 1 AI action that I actually completely forgot was a thing until I realized what was happening. See, the AI in these games is programmed to always favor moves that it thinks are super effective, but it only checks for type, not the actual attack. Since Dragonite knows Agility and Barrier, both of which are psychic moves, the game thinks those are super effective against my fighting type Primeape. We finish it with a few Karate Chops and bring it down. We heal up our team, revive our fallen comrades, and move on to the final battle with our rival Tim. Dugtrio comes out and takes some big damage but finishes off the Pidgeot. His Alakazam is next, and it's really weak physically, so I leave in Dugtrio to Slash. Fortunately, Alakazam doesn't use a damaging move and instead just uses Recover and Barrier, and we take it down. Rhydon is next, so it's back out to Victory Bell for a one-shot with Razor Leaf. Gyarados is next, so we stay on with Victory Bell and just brute force it with Razor Leaf. We actually took a couple of Dragon Rages and a Hyper Beam, but we managed to stay alive and take it down. Arcanine is next, so we swap into Kingler, and two Crab Hammers take Arcanine down. Last out is Venusaur, and we swap to Primeape and begin Karate chopping it away. He gets low and charges and lands a Solar Beam and ends up taking out our Primeape. We swap to Dugtrio knowing it's not going to stay in very long against the grass Pokemon, but one Slash actually ends Venusaur, and that's it. We've done it. We just beat Tim and we're in the Hall of Fame. We beat Pokemon Blue using only critical hits. That actually took a while. The in-game clock says 47 hours, but with the speed up I use, it was actually nowhere near that. Now, I don't consider speed ups to break any of the rules because they actually don't change the outcome at all. They just make the game play faster and it saves time. So that's it, it really wasn't super hard. I know I didn't recount the battles as in-depth as normal this time, but it was just those 4 moves over and over again to win. Not a lot of strategy, but it still took some research to execute properly, and it really wasn't a one-shot sweep the entire way by any means. We did get held up a few times. Eventually I'll do a no critical hit run using something like Electrode in Gen 1 since it'll be the opposite of this run, but for now that'll do for this week. I'm not sure what next week is going to be, but I'm thinking a Gen 3 run. So stay tuned for that next week, but until then, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and go catch 'em all.